There is consensus, as you say, Congresswoman, there is some skepticism about the degree to which humans may cause climate change, or can you specifically say an emergency, rather a weather event can be blamed on climate change? Some disagreement about that within the UK. Nevertheless, within the scientific community, there is consensus, Bill Nye, and, among the scientists themselves on both of those questions.
Well, I got to say, once again, what people are doing is introducing the idea that scientific uncertainty, in this case about cold weather events in what we call back east, is the same as uncertainty about the whole idea of climate change. And this is unscientific. It's not logical. It is a way, apparently, that the fossil fuel industry has dealt with our politics, and this is not good. Everybody, you don't need a PhD in climate science to understand what's going on. That we have overwhelming evidence that climate is changing, that you cannot tie any one event to that is not the same as doubt about the whole thing.
But is the issue, Congresswoman, the cure or the disease, and what's worse? Here's the Atlantic magazine on some of the views within your party, within the Republican Party. On global warming, conservative policy positions often seem to be conflated or confused with rejection of the consensus that the planet has been warming due to human carbon emissions. Of the many Republican members of Congress I know personally, the vast majority do not reject the underlying science of global warming. The catch, conservatives believe many of the policies put forward to address the problem will lead to unacceptable levels of economic hardship. The fix can be very expensive in the short term for long-term gain.
Well, I think that what you have to do is look at what that warming is. And when you look at the fact that we have gone from 320 parts per million, 0.032 to 0.040, 400 parts per million, what you do is realize it's very slight. Now, there is not consensus. And you can look at the latest IPCC report and look at Dr. Lindzen from MIT, his rejection of that, or Judith Curry, who recently from Georgia Tech. There is not consensus there. I think what we have to do.
Well, hold on. I just have to interrupt you. I'm sorry, Congressman. Let me just interrupt you because it's not.
Sure.
You can pick out particular skeptics, but you can't really say, can you, that the hundreds of scientists around the world who have looked at this have gotten together and conspired to manipulate data, and that industry folks like PG&E. Here's PG&E's website, its current website. This is a natural gas producer in Northern California saying, as a provider of gas and electricity to millions of Californians and an emitter of greenhouse gases, PG&E is keenly aware of its responsibility to both manage its emissions and work constructively to advance policies that put our state and the country on a cost-effective path toward a low-carbon economy. So the issue is, what actions are taken, when will they really work? First to you, Congresswoman, and then let me have Bill Nye respond.
Bill, where are we? All right. Guys, did you notice there was one climate denier, besides Blackburn, there was one climate denier that they showed in the video? And did you notice what was behind him? Did you notice what institute he was from? He was from the Cato Institute, the think tank that's funded by the Koch brothers, just like Americans for Prosperity, the Heritage Foundation. These guys are willing to spend millions on misinformation so they can trick the simple people into thinking that the climate's not changing. Guys, we're going to pay for it one way or the other. Let's do it honestly. Stop the deception. Stop the BS. All right, now, the next clip. Oh, did you notice the one thing that Marsha Blackburn said? Where are we? We went back here. Did you realize she said there's got to be a cost-benefit analysis? Oh, we want to see what it's going to cost to clean this up. Hey, you already know what it's going to cost to clean it up because you're actually giving that money to the shareholders because you're not spending it now. If you were spending it now, we wouldn't be worried about this problem. But you guys are so cheap. The 1% are so cheap. Joe, talking about all your buddies that trick you into thinking that hating your fellow American is a good thing. Yeah, Joey's against the minimum wage. Joey's against the living wage. He's against everything. What, corporations got to pay more money? Oh, where are we going to get it from? You take it from the profits. You take it from the business model. Where else are you going to take it from? All right. Now, we're going to show you the effects of climate change and how expensive it is. And how it can be, kill people. John, let's run the next. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Go back. Guys, I meant to tell you this. And Ivanpah opened up this week, and if you read this, the new Ivanpah solar plant in California was just turned on and is producing 392 megawatts of enough electricity to power 140,000 homes and avoid 400,000 metric tons of CO2, taking 72,000 vehicles off the. Guys, we showed you these videos earlier, and I told you, you can come back to me now, John, and I told you it was coming online, and now it's been done. But guys, we have to look at it logically. There's a lot of opposition to big solar farms like that. That's why a lot of times it's so much better to do it at a rooftop application, where people can actually benefit themselves. So like I always say, put solar panels on your roof and a Tesla in your garage, and you don't care if the price of gas goes to $100 a gallon. But let's get back to the change in the weather, and we'll show you what happened in Atlanta just recently. John, hit it.
With a new storm and 80 million Americans facing a wintry mess. Take a look at the video coming into us. A pileup in Wisconsin. One car ricochets down the icy highway, causing a chain reaction. And that driver in Texas who narrowly misses slabs of ice hurtling toward the ground. ABC's extreme weather team is tracking it all tonight, and weather editor Ginger Z starts us off.
Tonight, almost the entire nation is in the perilous grip of winter come early.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen.
In California, chilling winds, and all the way to New England, several ice-inspired spinouts.
This is Interstate 91. We're going south to New Haven, but you can see what's happened on the northbound side. All that ice on top of trees, on top of the road, and a huge backup.
Over the weekend, deadly collisions. Near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, watch this traffic camera catching the entire pileup. Car after car crashing into each other. In New York, a mangled mess.
It's like a hockey rink right now.
And in Texas, the inches of ice that kept David Doherty, his wife, and toddler stuck in the car for 26 hours.
I have been sitting in the same spot. I have not moved 1 foot from exit 380 in 11 hours. Okay. I've tried calling the police department. I've tried calling everybody, and I can't even hardly get anyone to answer the phone.
Officials telling us they were simply overwhelmed by the ice.
If you find yourself stuck in your car, here are some tips that could save your life. First, make sure your tailpipe is clear of mud, snow, any of that. You could get carbon monoxide poisoning. Also, that emergency kit, oh so important, and you've got to keep it fresh. Finally, stay in your car. Don't go wandering. It is your best protection.
Idling uses about half a gallon of gas an hour, so a 15-gallon tank could last up to 30 hours. But run your engine only long enough to remove the chill. Idling too long can lead to fumes in the car. And it wasn't all just on the roads. In Texas, look at these wild sheets of ice flying off the top of a building. Tonight in Chicago, the bundling has begun at Soldier Field.
We've got battery-powered socks, we've got gloves, we've got hand warmers, you name it, we have it.
And they'll need it. Temps tonight in the teens, wind chill near zero. Mother Nature challenging us all with quite the offense.
And here we go again, another storm to talk about. Let's get straight to the map. This is for the overnight, early morning, going to be a mess for parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We're talking some 2 to 4 inches for a lot of folks. Washington, D.C., when you're going to work, Philadelphia, New York, it's all going to start building through the morning and early afternoon. And that's just the beginning of it. Of course, that cold behind. You saw the forecast in Chicago. Those folks need to remember one thing that we forget so often in the cold: hydrate, avoid the caffeine and alcohol, and just chug water. Diane.
Okay, thanks so much, Jim.
All right, guys, now we're going to try to explain to you what a polar vortex is. And, you know, getting back to my buddy Dave on WLAD, the other day I'm listening to him and he's talking to the weatherman and they're talking about thunder snow. And he said, I forget the weatherman's name, but he said, you know, that's a new expression. I've never really heard that before. What is thunder snow? Hey, get used to the new expressions. Get used to the idea that things are changing. When you don't have words to make up what's happening and you have to change, you have to start a new vocabulary, doesn't that tell you that something's happening? I mean, come on. All right. Now we're going to show you what a global vortex looks like and what it does. So, John, hit it.
If you've been hearing that extreme cold spells, like the one that we're having in the United States now, disproves global warming, don't believe it. The fact is that no single weather episode can either prove or disprove global climate change. Climate is the pattern of weather that we observe geographically and over the seasons, and it's described in terms of averages, variations, and probabilities. But a growing body of evidence suggests that the kind of extreme cold being experienced by much of the United States as we speak is a pattern that we can expect to see with increasing frequency as global warming continues. And the reason is this. In the warming world that we're experiencing, the far north, the Arctic, is warming roughly twice as rapidly as the mid-latitudes, such as the United States. That means that the temperature difference between the Arctic and the mid-latitudes is shrinking. And that temperature difference is what drives what is called the circumpolar vortex, which is the great counterclockwise swirling mass of cold air that hovers over the Arctic. As the temperature difference between the Arctic and the mid-latitudes declines, the polar vortex weakens and it becomes wavier. The waviness means that there can be increased, larger excursions of cold air southward, that is into the mid-latitudes, and in the other phase of the wave, increased excursions of relatively warmer mid-latitude air into the far north. Computer models tell us that there are many different factors influencing these patterns. And as in all science, there will be continuing debate about exactly what is happening. But I believe the odds are that we can expect, as a result of global warming, to see more of this pattern of extreme cold in the mid-latitudes and some extreme warm in the far north.
Guys, I got a question for you. What are we going to call Glacier National Park when there's no glaciers anymore? What are we going to call it? Are we going to change the name? No, it's funny, but it's sad. It's sad. And when you watch this video, I mean, this is, in the video, they say this is the crown jewel. I mean, this is what made everything so special, and you'll just see, we're ruining everything. We're just destroying it. Why? Because of the greed of the 1%. Because they hate your fellow Americans. You know, just like Kerry said the other day, he says, you know, global warming is the biggest threat there is. I mean, you're going to see countries get wiped off the map. I mean, especially the low-lying countries. I mean, countries that are only a few feet above sea level. Look what happened in the Philippines. That's nothing. You ain't seen nothing yet. So anyway, John, let's go see what a Glacier National Park looks like with no glaciers.